One of the brightest lights of 1970s Hollywood was quietly preparing to disappear. Ali MacGraw had everything at her peak: critical praise, a strong husband, and global attention. One man entered her life and changed everything. There was no controversy she pursued, anything more appealing and devouring. Not only an affair followed, this decision would kill her marriage, quiet her career, and leave people wondering how someone so conspicuous could withdraw so totally. Cool's knock on her door started her scary and intriguing story. Ali MacGraw's life changed forever. The day Steve McQueen gave her the getaway script. She was riding a tide of stardom after her winning performance in Love Story and married to powerful Paramount executive Robert Evans. Her perfectly organized world didn't prepare her for McQueen's powerful, unexpected, and seductive presence. Ali said in a later interview that he knew he was in trouble when he spotted him. His innate magnetism drew people in without effort, disrupting the air in a room. She wasn't immune or prepared for what followed. They clicked immediately on the Getaway set in 1972. McQueen was more than her co-star. She grew obsessed with him, and her downfall. Hidden chemistry led to an affair that ended her marriage to Evans. Ali said she left Robert emotionally, not rationally. "I abandoned everything for Steve. It was a surrender to passion, curiosity, and possibly a wish to be viewed differently." McQueen was real and dangerous. Her polished Hollywood existence lacks two things. She married him in 1973. The world sees them as a couple. Brooding, rebellious action hero and lovely, intense, thoughtful woman. The world couldn't see the emotional stream emerging from under McQueen's unrecovered trauma. Ali is progressively becoming a woman willing to change for love. She abandoned her marriage and a promising career at its peak. While such sizzle makes sensational headlines, Ali would later struggle to name or recognize a personal cost. Ali would remember McQueen's film offer at her doorstep years later. She called it a collision between profession and romance. He didn't only introduce a role to play, an error that would leave a shift in relations too deep to document. With it began an association that cleaned up her public image and replaced it with a total reality. The Steve McQueen chapter was about drama and underlying underpinnings that would define her life for better or ill. But falling for Steve was just the start. Living with him was different. At first, living with Steve McQueen in Malibu seemed like a dream come true. Ali MacGraw described their seaside property as a comfortable escape from Hollywood. They avoided the industry's tumult with simple, unfamous buddies. Their leisurely, earthy days included barefoot mornings on the sand, sunset barbecues, and beer-fueled stargazing. Ali tenderly remembered those early days in 2024. "We were happy for a time. There alone was comforting, and she thought she had found something real." But beneath the calm exterior, the equilibrium shifted. McQueen's need for control shaped his relationships and family life. He had long shunned celebrity, but his privacy demands were emotional. He demanded submission, not simply seclusion. Ali adjusted to make the partnership work. "I played chef, cleaning lady, and plain woman to the fullest," she said, showing herself muffling to please him. Her life of scripts, fashion shoots, and public appearances was over. They immediately felt the emotional toll of isolation. Though peaceful, the lovely world was not immune to conflict. Possessiveness and instability by McQueen, combined with alcohol misuse, led to continuous conflicts to turn their sanctuary into a battlefield. Ali also started drinking heavily, turning pleasant evenings into tension and emotional withdrawals. Their seaside bungalow was no longer safe. It was where they were both vanishing into false identities. Ali later found the Malibu lifestyle disillusioning, not as a new beginning, but as her gradual dissolution. Only the absence of public pressure hid her willingness to shrink to please McQueen. That self-narrowing turned the woman who once charmed crowds into a peacekeeper. The sand, ocean, and bonfires became a setting for a life of conditional love and compromised identity. Steve McQueen was the definition of cool, a Hollywood legend whose steely glare and anti-establishment roles captivated a generation's rebellious spirit. Behind his easy swagger was a guy badly damaged by a lifetime of emotional desertion. After McQueen's father fled while he was a toddler, his mother, an alcoholic and unstable, sent him to live with relatives before enrolling him in a reform school for problematic boys. His early traumas left him with a deep suspicion of relationships and a compulsion to dominate his environment. Ali MacGraw later described his psychological baggage into the Avira relationship as being so wounded. Ali quickly realized his mystery and independence were emotional armor. McQueen's mood swings and unpredictability kept her on edge. She respected his strength and morality, but she also saw his suspicion, envy, and emotional distance. "He was always dangerous," she told People in 2018. His bad boy charisma was appealing in public but frightening in private. Ali learned to manage his moods by adapting her words and conduct to avoid provoking his fears. Loving him went beyond affection, constant emotional calculation. McQueen got more controlling as their relationship evolved. He requested a prenuptial agreement before marrying Ali in 1973, and forcefully advised her to quit acting. Not requests, these demands. Instead, he tried to manage her life out of a genuine dread of being weak or upstaged. In a closer weekly interview, Ali admitted she shrank for him. She sacrificed her job and voice to appease the relationship, which could not tolerate equality. McQueen used control to defend himself. Ali slowly lost her individuality to survive emotionally. Ali gradually saw that McQueen's dominance was increasing again. Ironically, his fear of abandonment pushed him to drive people away. She could tell he was wounded and never fully healed under his theatrical charm. That awareness may have helped, but living with him still seemed burdensome. They loved passionately but never felt safe or free. More like a constant emotional workout. Ali realized too late to save anything, but that was partly true. That would influence her processing of their years together after he died. Ali MacGraw had the world at her feet at the height of her stardom. She became one of Hollywood's most bankable and popular actresses after Goodbye Columbus and Love Story. She faced a choice between personal passion and professional purpose when Steve McQueen entered her life. McQueen praised her talent but refused to share the attention. Ali later stated that he didn't want me to work, which changed their power dynamic early on. She had a tough choice: keep or quit her flourishing career. To match McQueen's ideal companion, Ali decided quickly and fully. Her marriage to Robert Evans, who had championed her brilliance, ended, and she began rejecting film offers and leaving the Hollywood machine that had just begun to welcome her. Instead, she immersed herself in domestic life, prioritized McQueen's needs, and parenting Josh, her kid with Evans. Transition wasn't gradual. It was instant and complete. She told Closer Weekly in 2024 that she played cook, cleaning lady, simple woman to the fullest. A peaceful lifestyle wasn't the only change in this self-imposed metamorphosis. She had to give up her freedom to make the partnership work. That capitulation affected me personally and professionally. McQueen called Ali's house possessive, which extended to her countenance. He was envious whenever she had formal or informal contact with other men, while he lived with evident flirting and indulging hobbies. Ali left the spotlight but didn't return or enjoy it. Instead, it exacerbated their imbalance. She admitted to creating a woman she felt would appeal to him, reflecting on how she altered herself to maintain harmony. Despite her efforts, her voice was being stifled. In the late 1970s, the cost of self-erasure became apparent. The girl had no job advancement, no confidence, and basically no identity. After the marriage ended in 1977, Ali was left emotionally devastated by someone else's boundaries. McQueen's 1980 death compounded it, as she missed the guy who had loved her and realized she had sacrificed so much without being seen. Over the years, Ali faced painful truths as she underwent treatment for alcoholism and love addiction. Her arduous return began with a confrontation over what she had given up and why. Ali MacGraw's disappearance. After marrying Steve McQueen, Ali MacGraw gradually lost herself. After being praised for her sincerity and on-screen presence, she disappeared from the public eye and lived a domestic life unrecognizable to her former world. Though formerly praised for her innate elegance, she now shaped every aspect of her being to fit McQueen's ideas. She subsequently admitted, "Right from the start, I never showed him who I was," revealing how deeply she had repressed her actual self to maintain the connection. Change went beyond the self. Her life rhythm showed it. McQueen forced her to quit, trade scripts for chores, and disappear from Hollywood. She cooked, cleaned, and hosted in their private Malibu beach home. This Ali wasn't the magazine cover or award-winning woman, someone created to avoid conflict, to calm McQueen's fears. She fabricated herself to meet his expectations. However, creativity, freedom, and self-expression suffered. The emotional weight of losing one's identity increased over time. McQueen's jealousy and possessiveness interfered with most relationships, especially with men. Ali's world was limited to the mansion and McQueen's rules. Restrictions on outside contact accompanied free speech suppression. Passion's white-hot intensity caused emotional suppression in the relationship. From that heady and charming woman, eventually disappeared from Hollywood screens, locked and fading in shadow behind a man whose grief required regular soothing. Ali began to comprehend how she had lost her identity years after McQueen's death and her addiction recovery. Therapy and life analysis revealed the patterns that had caused her quiet, may have kept the peace, but it couldn't stop what next. Full-speed turbulence. Ali MacGraw and Steve McQueen's hot, all-consuming affair ended in turmoil. Insecurities, substance misuse, and unresolved emotional traumas poisoned their passion. Their Malibu home, long a refuge from fame, became a source of strife. Ali stated that we were both drinking too much, which degraded their conversation and sharpened their tempers. Silent times often turned into yelling bouts, power clashes, and emotional standoffs that left severe scars. McQueen's childhood abandonment-fueled jealousy grew overwhelming. Ali remembered being triggered by a casual glimpse at another man, But the double standard was obvious. Ali's behavior was carefully monitored by McQueen, who flirted often. You never knew what he would do, say, or be next, she remembered. Living with someone whose moods could change instantly is psychologically taxing. His charisma had originally drew her in, but his unpredictability caused emotional weariness that no compromise could fix. Infidelity hurt their already fragile marriage. McQueen and MacGraw had infidelity as indicators of emotional detachment, not rebellion. McQueen's affairs, especially with women on film sets, were rumored. Ali's gentle revelation of infidelity showed how far she had gone from her former self. Next came suffocating quiet. Numbness followed. Escape was all that remained. Tension erupted in 1977. The relationship that defined her was now destroying her. A split took place that year, marking the end of a love that had scorched both ends for too long. As Ali struggled with a happy, sad relationship, McQueen died of cancer at 53 years later. In later years, she called these instances a roller coaster that went out of control before anyone had the fortitude or clarity to get off. The irreparable break. Ali MacGraw and Steve McQueen's marriage ended in 1977. Years of tension, mistrust, and emotional devastation buried their once consuming passion. Ali was emotionally exhausted after sacrificing her work, freedom, and individuality. She later realized she had become a woman she believed he wanted. A sad admission that showed how far she had strayed from her own self. She tried to please McQueen's dominating tendencies, but their connection was too intense. Their magnetic link was unsustainable. Leaving McQueen wasn't just about divorce. It was about recovering her small self. The Hollywood star who had graced magazine covers and film premieres was now unemployed and forgotten by a changing industry. Under McQueen's orders, Ali had put her acting career on hold for years to be a wife and mother. As she left their relationship, she grieved a lover and faced the empty space where her job, self-confidence, and goals formerly dwelt. Everything I thought was romantic about our life became claustrophobic and impossible, she later said, speaking to the emotional collapse that had slowly engulfed her. The separation had brought relief, but was quickly followed by the shadow of McQueen's illness. In 1979, he was diagnosed with pleural mesothelioma, a rare and aggressive cancer that has an established correlation of causation with asbestos. His health rapidly deteriorated, and he passed away in November 1980 at 50 years of age. Ali was heartbroken. Although they had separated, things had never really been done between them. There was never really closure, she reflected. The death marked the end of a turbulent chapter and stole from her the opportunity to resolve questions, pains, and unresolved feelings about the relationship. In the wake of McQueen's death, Ali entered a soul-cleansing period. With grief and a fractured sense of identity, she was left to spiral. Depression and alcoholism inundated her as layers of emotional suppression and self-sacrifice added to the burden. Into the Betty Ford Center, she determined to go. That decision marked the true beginning of her healing. Here she began to address not only her addiction, but also all those years of abandonment, love addiction, and loss of self that characterized her relationship with McQueen. The break may have been legally final in 1977, but emotional healing was another story that would take more than a few decades, and every step required a refreshingly lucid sense of honesty before she would even begin to rebuild a life. The death that haunted her. Steve McQueen's death on November 7, 1980, was both sudden and symbolic. The abrupt end of a man who had lived at full throttle and burned through life as fiercely as he had through fame. Diagnosed just a year prior with pleural mesothelioma, an aggressive cancer tied to asbestos exposure, McQueen sought treatment in Mexico after exhausting options in the U.S. He died shortly after undergoing experimental surgery, leaving behind not only a cinematic legacy, but a wake of unfinished emotional business, especially for Ali MacGraw. Although they had divorced in 1978, his death reverberated through her in a way that surprised even her. There was never really closure, she later said, capturing the ache of words left unsaid and pain left unprocessed. Despite the turmoil of their marriage, Ali never denied the depth of her love for McQueen. Theirs had been a relationship of intensity, thrilling and consuming, but also unbalanced and bruising. His passing stirred not only grief but a cascade of unresolved emotions that she had long buried. Guilt over the compromises she made, sorrow over the parts of herself she'd lost, and confusion about the man who could be both tender and terrifying. I was so in love with him, she admitted, even as she acknowledged the damage that love had done. It was this emotional complexity, love entwined with regret, that haunted her after his death. In many ways, McQueen's death forced Ali to come to terms with what their relationship actually cost her. It was not simply losing a man. It was about the loss of illusions. Ali had, in a way, thought that her relationship, chaotic as it might be, could be fixed or understood over time. His death closed that door forever. She began to reflect upon not just who he was, but who she became in his presence. I made myself disappear in that marriage, she later said, a profound statement attesting to the emotional void she was left with when he left. His death became a lens through which she began to assess bits and pieces of herself that she had given up to be with him. Up until many years later, he hovered in and about Ali's life as a ghost without being romantic about it. He became one of the few reminders of this love story that had no resolution she could think of. She would eventually find her peace in the quiet rhythms of her later life. But the memories of their years together, both beautiful and bruising, would never completely leave her. She called the relationship a roller coaster. And when his death brought it to a sudden halt, the deafening quiet that followed was almost worse than the tumult. The fallout of loving Steve. After Steve McQueen died in 1980, Ali MacGraw entered one of the most emotionally complex chapters of her life. From the outside, she had once embodied the perfect Hollywood fairy tale. Rapid success, critical acclaim, and marriage to two of the most influential men in the film industry. But after the dust settled, Ali found herself grappling with the emotional debris left behind. She was no longer the star who had commanded box offices, but a woman who had dimmed her own light for love and was now unsure of how to find her way back. The public may have remembered her as the elegant actress from Love Story, but she barely recognized that woman anymore. Her grief over McQueen's passing brought a new layer of reckoning. Without the distraction of his powerful presence, Ali was left alone with a profound emptiness, the result of years spent people-pleasing, adapting and performing emotional gymnastics to preserve love at all costs. She admitted in retrospect that she had created a version of herself she believed would appeal to McQueen, highlighting how her true identity had been suppressed, not only throughout their marriage, but also in the difficult years that followed, as she struggled to navigate life in the aftermath of their relationship. The emotional toll had outlived the relationship itself, and with her career having long stalled, Ali found herself aimless and unanchored. A major choice in her life was made when Bay checked herself into the Betty Ford Center in 1985. The initial diagnosis of an alcohol problem quickly turned into a much more profound and serious experience, a full confrontation with patterns that had emotionally and culturally governed her life for decades. Although self-abandonment usually occurred in romantic relationships, she traced its roots much more centrally into her childhood when she witnessed her father's alcoholic rage, which set up her future as a chronic pleaser. As she told Closer Weekly, "I would demand outrageously from most people, every single one of them in a room liking me." And so it became the cornerstone of her healing, that painful yet liberating awareness of how the need to be loved has routinely taken people away from themselves. In the 1990s, walking out of Hollywood was not a retreat, it was a reclamation. She would be reconnecting in Tezuka, New Mexico. Location, beauty, and privacy also afforded emotional space to find herself beyond fame, addiction, or relationships. Here, surrounded by nature and a community rooting Ali's quiet life in authenticity, she painted, gardened, and engaged herself in spiritual practices. In time, she began to recreate success not as applause and headlines, but as self-respect and peace. Just when it seemed she had lost herself for good, life led her somewhere she never imagined. Healing beyond the king of cool. Today, Ali MacGraw lives a life defined not by stardom or scandal, but by stillness and intention. Her home in Tezuka, New Mexico, a serene village north of Santa Fe, offers the opposite of the Hollywood spotlight she once occupied. With its expansive skies, creative community, and natural beauty, it's a place where she has found grounding. "I'm very involved with the community. I have a life that makes me happy," she said in a 2024 Closer Weekly interview. She now spends her days painting, gardening, animal welfare, and spiritual introspection, rather than maintaining a manicured image. Desert silence has let her reconnect with herself. It took time to change. It took decades of treatment, contemplation, and hard-won realizations. Her recovery from addiction went beyond sobriety. She had to unravel her lifelong craving for validation. Ali, the daughter of a volatile alcoholic father and a volatile household, believed her worth was related to keeping the peace, being nice, and being loved at all costs. For his charisma, McQueen matched that unsettled emotional structure. With age and clarity, she saw her tendencies and broke free from them. "Finally, I'm feeling confident with my outfit," she reflected on her own skin, signifying that she had outgrown the urge to be someone else. Steve McQueen will always be part of her history. She will be undefined by him. She mourns him with remarkable honesty, not romanticizing the past but understanding and insight. His sorrowful but true death changed her self-understanding. Many say the relationship's termination was the start of her true existence, when she could be present without being played, love without sacrifice, and falling into someone else's shadow. Thanks for watching. If Ali MacGraw's story moved you, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. We want your feedback. Which surprised you most? We should discuss what next. Don't leave. Explore Hollywood's most famous stars' hidden stories by clicking the next video.